Hey everyone, we're live again. So we were live yesterday. Thanks everyone for joining us yesterday. That show rap battle, that was like intense. I just want to say I want to personally thank everyone who showed up and came to the show yesterday because that was unexpected. I was not expecting the absolute fire that was happening on in the chat. So thanks to everyone for joining yesterday. Again, a big props to Panda Doc. That was fantastic. Thanks, Travis, and Ding, and everyone else that joined. So today we're back. We're doing a double header is what they call it. I don't something like that. And so we're back today with a brand new episode, and I'm excited about it for two reasons today. Because one is we're talking about community, which I'm a huge believer of, and I'm so excited to talk about that. But also, it's with Leslie Greenwood, who helped build Pavilion. And Leslie and I kind of go a way back, and way back as in like 2020. I was one of the kind of first-ish kind of Toronto Pavilion chapter members, and one of the very first cohort for Rising Executives, which is like a program with Pavilion, the sales marketing community. And Leslie and I met then. So this is the first time we actually met in person. We've been going back and forth on DMs for years. So I'm so excited that she's here today. But if you got the ping, you don't know what this is. Welcome to the Closing Show Live. So we're a weekly live show. We feature the people of Proposify, sales stars in the trenches, and revenue leaders. The Closing Show Live is hosted by me, Nadia Milani, VP of Marketing at Proposify. And every week we discuss the challenges we're facing, the no BS lessons we've learned so you can crush your close rates. And the Closing Show Live is brought to you by Proposify. So get consistency and visibility into your proposal process. Start your 14-day free trial today at proposify.com. So some housekeeping if you're joining us today and it's the first time you've joined a LinkedIn stream. So sometimes the live will freeze. It happens on LinkedIn once in a while. So just press pause and then press play again. Click on the same link if you want to watch it after the show. You want to watch the recording. All you got to do is go back to the Proposify page and you can see the link, just press play and the recording will be there. Drop where you're joining us from today. So I want to know where you're joining us from today in the comments. Drop where you are watching us from or listening to us. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Today, we're giving away an amazing prize. So Leslie's going to give away a 30-minute community-led consultation, which is so great. Thank you, Leslie, for being generous and giving away two of those. To win a consultation, all you have to do is ask a question in the comments section, either to myself or to Leslie, and we will enter you to win, and Hunter will pick the prize at the end with our magical prize wheel, which is amazing. So if you're in sales and nothing is, and you're just having a hard time, I truly believe that nothing will help level up your career more than community. And I think that's so true also for anyone who's in revenue. So if you're in marketing or community, or if you're in CS, find a community. Hey, from Toronto. Hey, James. And the community will help. It will help you scale your career, will help you be better, will help you just do a lot of things. So I'm a big believer of that, but don't take it from me. Don't take it from me because I haven't built an amazing community yet, but one day maybe I will. But Leslie Greenwood has. So she's the founder and CEO of Chief Evangelist Consulting and is joining us today. She's sharing how she helped build the Pavilion community, like I said, lessons learned, and how you can build and leverage community to scale your career. Welcome to the show, Leslie! Oh, I think you're on mute. Oh no, we're on mute.
I was muting because there are people walking around in this WeWork that I'm at. I'm so excited.
Hi.
This is like you said, the first time we've ever kind of met in person, and after 2+ years or maybe more of DMing and everything, it's just really great to see. It was nice to reminisce before.
That's so awesome. Yeah, we did say hi and we just updated each other on what's going on before the show. But you're joining us from B2B Max, right? You're in Scottsdale with like a ton of people, I think, are over there.
I sure am. And took some time out of my day and got away from the booths and the learning just to come chat with you. Excited.
So awesome. Thanks for being here. I'm so honored to have you on the show. So like I said, we've been talking for many years, DMing. And at the time, you were one of like the early employees, I think, at Pavilion, helping build the community. And if you aren't aware, Pavilion is a sales marketing community. And it was something that I joined because I was looking for probably a lot of the things that other people are looking for when they join community. I was looking for peers that I could talk to, just some camaraderie.
Camaraderie.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. And I was looking also for professional development. So I remember Pavilion coming up and I was like, oh, I want to join this thing. And it was also COVID. So I just had not necessarily extra time, but I had some time to meet with people. Everything was virtual and I thought it was a good time. And you were there. And you were so helpful there. And I remember you had, we had talked a lot about I remember I had taken the Rising Executives course as the first cohort and learned a lot about how to apply the principles of unit economics into forecasting. And I remember taking that to the CFO and I'm like, look, we should be enough about with sales capacity. Let's do more of like a waterfall model, and gave me the confidence to have those discussions. And so you were at Pavilion. I'd love to just start the conversation there. So you helped build it, one of the biggest revenue communities out there. So can you take us through your journey and some of the key learnings that you experienced through that whole process and I guess story? Because I think it's almost like a story, the myth, the legend.
Oh, yes. Well, I joined as a member first. So I joined the same thing as you. I probably joined about 6 weeks before the pandemic. It's one of the first members in our Dallas area. And, they asked me to be a chapter head with them. I'm like, sure, I'll do that. And then I just remember one day Sam was saying he was going to hire some super junior CS people to kind of help. I'm like, I want to do that. Let's talk. And so, a couple months later, I ended up being employee number 5 at Pavilion. And they already had 1,500 members. The community was awesome. And then, during my 2-year run there, and I am still a member, so I'm 3 years into Pavilion, we went from 2,000 to 10,000 members. So very fast scaling. We rolled out mentoring and Pavilion University during that time. And, you name it. Grew chapters, probably 20 chapters all over the world. So even though my title at the time was Vice President of Member Success, I really was, customer service and community. And really fell in love with it. Like personally, I have gotten so much out of community, and it was great to kind of like have a little hand in there and help our members, just like you, because to kind of go back to the story we were talking about before the show, I'm like, yeah, remember this one person told me they did this. And she's like, oh, you're like, that was me. I'm like, you were the example that I tell people about when I talk about like the power of community and community learning.
That was amazing. You were very much the face of customer service back then. So I remember I was like, I have this like probably silly question, like, who am I going to ask? And I remember I'm like, I'm going to ask Leslie. She's a VP of customer success. So it's probably one of those like, one of those also, perhaps members who were like, just randomly asking you just maybe silly questions, but you were fantastic at getting back. But during that story and during that journey, there must have been so many learnings about building community. I'd love to tap into that. Like I remember you had posted yesterday, made me laugh, 77 things that you were going to tips that you would share. But I would have just like 3 or 4 that you could maybe just tell me really out of curiosity, but also our listeners, what were some of those key learnings from all of that? Because scaling that quickly is not easy. And I'm sure there's many experiments and learnings that you had taken away. So we'd love to know. We'd love to share. We'd love for you to share.
Yeah. So I think one of the things, and this is what I'm bringing into my new role, is building with the community, not for the community. So one of our big things in member success was like, we wanted feedback. I want feedback. Please tell me the feedback. I want all the feedback. Any way you want to give me, because that's how certain things came out of the community. That's how certain channels came. That's how, certain events came because people asked for it, and we were very open to listening. And now as I get into true community, like from the more, that is true community, but like from the academic sense of building a community, that's what they talk about. Like you build with the community, not for the community. So that's one thing I definitely learned. The other thing, and I didn't think about it at the time, but now as I'm working with companies, we had a team of 16 people at one point, and so it was like, we called it smooth like a duck. So your experience should have just been like, oh, we're smooth on, sailing on, a clear lake, and we are paddling like, underneath. And so like the amount of work that it takes to run a community behind the scenes so that it feels like, this is great. It's just, they got it all going on. And we're like, let's do this, let's do that, let's build this. We need to change that. We need to get back to these 17 members. And then 2 people have questions. And now we need to host an event. And, so it's just so that's one of the things that I'm bringing with. So like any customer I might deal with, is like, you have to have a full-time community manager, or at least a part-time community manager. It seems to be one of the myths that you can just open a community and people will come, and it can be your events, it might fall under marketing. So it's like, you're like, oh, my events person can do this part-time. Well, not really. So just how much work it actually takes to make it look like it's easy.
I love that analogy, the smooth duck. So making it seem like it's all really smooth. Meanwhile, like you're just like barely paddling, but barely swimming and keeping over
Yep.
water. So you mentioned
100%.
something that's also very interesting around full-time versus part-time community manager. So curious, like, can a part-time community manager do it? Like you have mentioned that this is a full-time job. So I'm curious, if you're a small company and you definitely want to dabble in community, but don't potentially have the resources, is it possible? Like, or do you just wait until you have somebody that can do it full time?
It has to be dedicated. So like if you are going to repurpose someone, then you need to, if they're part-time, then you actually need to repurpose half of their job away from them. It's not something like, oh, you're going to have your regular job, and then on the side, we want you to go in and manage community, because that's just, it's just never going to happen in the way it needs to happen. So that person needs to have like a voice. They need to have like some strategy in mind. They need to be actively listening to the members. And if they're just popping in every once in a while to answer a question, they're not taking that more strategic vision of the community back into the business. So yeah, it can be part-time. It can be someone's other half job, but it can't be the job on top of the job, I guess maybe is what I'm really going after.
Is it junior a role, or is it like a senior role in your opinion? Because if you have to bring it back and
Mhm.
kind of ladder up to the strategy, like can a junior person do it?
I mean, I think a lot of people do hire junior people for that. And I think if they're trained correctly and they have some baseline community knowledge, I've seen many job descriptions for like community manager, but they're also the social media manager and the events manager and the this manager and that manager. And so it's like they kind of just roll it all up into something. And yeah, I mean, bigger communities, you want to have someone that's looking at it strategically, because you actually are planning, replanning, pivoting, um, thinking of new strategies for engagement. Because I mean, you saw it in Pavilion, you've probably in other communities, engagement ebbs and flows. And
Yeah.
what an engagement is for one person, I have had people, and I with other customers now, people that I never see in Slack or in the community, or in the community portal, but they come to every event. So you have to really think about like, how are you measuring engagement? What does that look like? What do we need to do more of? What do we need to do less of? And so there's just I don't know, there's so much strategic behind the tactical, I don't know. You could do
Oh,
junior or
sounds like
senior, but I'm
sorry. Sometimes that happens. Like I think there's a break and then I'll ask a question, but the person actually hasn't finished what they're saying. So sorry about that. But you really just touched on something that I'm very, very interested in is the metrics. But before we go into metrics, I just want back to the Pavilion story, and then we're going to move off of Pavilion. Is like, why do you think Pavilion was so successful? Like, was it the timing was right? Was it there was just a deep need for sales, marketing, community? I'm just curious what your perspective on that. Why is Pavilion still very successful?
I think it's a combination of all those things. The timing was right. Explosive growth happened during COVID, but then the offering was what people needed. It wasn't just a community. It wasn't just learning. It wasn't just events. It was a combination of everything brought together in one place and delivered with a certain amount of like, I mean, it's a little fluffy, but love and care. Like, we wanted the members to succeed. Like, I wanted to know people personally. The team wanted to know people personally and really have a hand in their success. So I think that's different. And that's one of the things I'm bringing into this, kind of new idea is that, I don't want community isn't just metrics. And it's not just like we have people in here and they talk. There's this human element underneath that if we don't tap into, it's like you'll never really grow a true community. And Pavilion has that and has that.
Yeah, and they also, I feel like, real based on the needs of the community. So you had mentioned it's really about um, building with the community versus for the community. And so education became a thing where people were learning or wanting to learn more. And I feel like Pavilion has really kind of doubled down on that learning opportunity, which is interesting. Going back to the metrics part, you had mentioned, so community is strategic. You can have somebody who is more junior dedicated to it, but you really need to have the metrics that are defined to measure its success. So curious what those are.
Mhm. It depends a little bit on the type of community that you're going to build. There's this spaces model, and you can find that on the CMX website, but it's the different types of community you can have. So the first S is support. So, many people have a support community. You go and you ask your questions and another member answers it. P is product. A is acquisition. C is content. E is engagement, and the last one is customer success. So your metrics that you're going to look at really depend on the business outcomes that you've said you want for the community. So like I know a lot of people think, oh, the metrics, it's just engagement. That's your top line metric, and especially at the beginning, because you're looking at member growth, you're looking at engagement. But then you ladder to the business outcomes. So I work mostly with, similar to the people that were in Pavilion, B2B SaaS. Most of their goals are acquisition, engagement, and maybe some content. So then we're looking at, okay, how many are customers if it's an open community, so it's customers and other people. How many people come to the community before they become a member of not a member, before they go to your pipeline? And then you do cohort analysis and say, okay, well, based on my community qualified leads, let's call them, how fast do they close? What's their close rate compared to others? How much do they purchase? What's the renewal rate? And so you can track all of that. And, generally, and I forget whether it's Salesforce or Gong, but there's a study out there that someone posted that, they renew at a much larger rate. They buy more, they refer more. So all of those things, I would definitely be measuring referrals. So that's one thing. If a company doesn't have a referral program, we will probably put at least a light referral program into any community, because you want to measure, how does having that community making those connections, and how does that translate into business outcomes.
So interesting. Oh, I just got a echo, so hopefully that goes away. Hopefully that's not my internet. I don't know if you can hear it. Hunter, can you hear my echo, or is it just me? It's just me? Okay, perfect. So you had mentioned all the different engagement scores, and really at the beginning, I agree with you. It's all about engagement, and you got to move into more like down funnel metrics. So it's really about conversion and like what's the revenue opportunity and how much they spend. But I'm curious, in like community models, like is it better to start free, or is it better to have a paid model off the bat? Like what's your perspective and point of view on that?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on, again, the outcomes. So like if Proposify wanted to build a community, it would be free. It'd be an extra place to support your customers, provide thought leadership, give them ways to engage with other members, create connections. And then maybe you would have an open section so that people could hear about the benefits. They could talk to other members. They'll say, oh, hey, what do you think about it? And then you have that word of mouth kind of influence bringing people over. So that's one way. If you're going to have like more of a networking community, I am all about people getting out their credit card. I want them to at least get out their credit card for $5 a month. I think there's a certain level of, now I'm not going to say that's always going to be the thing. That would be, if I built a community, I would definitely have people pay me $2 or $5, because the act of putting their credit card in there makes them feel that it's more valuable, because free is not felt as valuable. So I definitely I would do it paid. Now, then it also depends on what kind of services you're offering. Are you offering one-on-one calls? Are you offering member matching? What is the support you're going to do? And then how does that, how does that is perceived value, I guess, from your members? Um, and then, most people start at one level and then they, ratchet the price up over time based on the growth and, the different services they're offering.
Amazing. If you have a question for Leslie, you can drop it into the chat or myself about community, and you'll be entered to win at the end of the show one of two 30-minute consultations on how to build your own community growth, community-led growth, community-growth-led, community-led growth strategy. So all you got to do is either ask a question or even comment. Just say hello from where you're joining us, and we'll enter you to win at the end of the show. So going back to like building with community. So one of the ways that I know you can do it is like, through NPS like scores, or like, what do you think about this certain thing that we're doing? So I'm curious, like, how is that the way? Are there other ways? How do you build with the community so you make sure you're building the right thing?
Yeah, a lot of community platforms have like surveying tools built into them. So there's easy ways to do that inside the place that they're already engaging with you. NPS is, I call it like a fickle mistress. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it doesn't mean anything. Sometimes it means a whole lot. I'm a fan if there's a comment section and you're asking targeted questions about what you'd like to see better that you can take away. But yeah, you definitely want to do some surveying. And like right now, I do my part of the process is customer interviews. So I actually had a customer interview in my Airbnb this morning, which is where I found out my internet wasn't so fabulous. And, like, what do you want to see? What do you want to, what don't you want to see? What would make this better? So that's always going to be a part of it. And if it's community's big enough, you're going to have to use some kind of survey mechanism, whatever that is. But I would just say very targeted and pointed questions.
Amazing. What's like a good question to ask? So is it like, what did you think about this particular event, or what could have been better? Like, what kind of questions would you ask when you're surveying your community?
What else would you like to see offered within the community?
So simply that.
That's one of them. I would definitely ask, just because it'll give you an idea of what's top of mind. Like, or what else have you seen in another community you'd like to bring to this community? And it's very interesting to hear, what's on their mind. And if you just give them that open forum, you get so many great ideas.
Amazing. So there must be challenges building community. It's like the duck looks all good, but underwater it's like, so I'd love for you to walk us through some common challenges that you experience, or as a consultant have heard others experiencing building community.
Yeah, the biggest thing that we heard at Pavilion, and I hear from other communities as well, and I see them in other communities, is like the overuse. It's noisiness. Every community manager or person that's launching a community, they want everyone to listen and read their stuff. So they add channel, or they do some type of broadcast, and that's just the biggest culprit of noisiness. Also, allowing your members to do that, like, that's a hard no. Nobody except for the admins, the owner, should have the ability to do that. So that's one of them. It is also just like staying targeted and understanding that community, the product of community, is truly about people. People change, situations change. And you have to be constantly looking at it as something that you're going to continue to iterate on over time. You don't build it and it's done. You build it and you continue to build it, rebuild it, edit it, and change it for probably as long as the community, runs. So those are two of the things that I think of off the top of my head.
Amazing. What do you do when there's like, you're starting to poll people, and then there's like some groups want this and some groups want that, and maybe they're competing? How do you balance those decisions when building a community that keeps growing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's hard. I mean, there's ways. It depends on what the level of lift is that you need. If this is like, I need to build a whole new program and I'm going to need a dedicated person, or if it's like, it's a certain channel or an event, you think about the lift and the value that I'll get for members. I would probably also like do a small poll or a survey, like, who else would find this valuable? I remember when I first started Pavilion, if someone had a new channel idea, we would post it in the general section, general comments, and say, okay, if 10 people emoji this, then we'll make the channel. So it was a little bit of a democracy. So like people had some ideas and no one really bid it. And sometimes you'd have 100 people emojiing things. So it's a give and take. It's a give and take. And it's just like anything. You'll never please everybody, but you can still listen and try to pivot them into something that would be that's most helpful.
Do you think Slack is enough for community building, or do you definitely need like a more comprehensive tool, or can Slack just be enough?
I think in our space, B2B SaaS, most people live in Slack. They live in Slack for their work. And so like getting them to another platform is challenging.
Hmm.
Um, Slack is not built for community. Can you build a community in Slack? Absolutely. Am I building some Slack communities right now? Absolutely. But, it's just, I would love for Slack to come talk to me on how to build a community platform.
Slack, anybody from Slack listening? Hook,
I would help you. You can, most of communities, the smaller communities, they all go on free Slack. Like if you just offer us a price that work for communities and we'll work together, it'd be great. So I'd say it's not the best. It works really well in most instances, but there are probably 20 other community platforms out there, 5 or 6 that I'm very familiar with that we'll definitely look at as part of like the community evaluation, because people live in different places. Like I would definitely never build a developer community on Slack or a platform. They're already on Discord. Leave them on Discord. So it's like you have to think about that change management, bringing someone into a new kind of ecosystem.
That's a good point, and it's really back to the marketing fundamentals. Like, build something where they hang out, be present where they
Mhm.
hang out, like leverage where the spaces that your target market is. So
Mhm.
it's relative to community. I love that. So, what advice would you give to companies or brands that are thinking about building community for the very first time? So, what are kind of like 1 or 2 things that they definitely should be thinking about?
Yeah, I'd say the first thing is thinking about the why. Why do you want to build the community? Is it just because is it because it's cool? Is it because you're going to think you're going to influence deals? Is it because you need to like not have as many support tickets coming in? Like really think about the value that you want to get as a company. But then you have to really, really think about the value you are going to give your members. And that value delivery has to happen time and time and time again in perpetuity.
Hmm.
So you really need to like balance both of those. You have to obviously understand your ICP, what's important to them, because that's kind of the strategy that you're going to build, the community around it. I'd say the other thing is, especially the earlier companies, is like we talk about mission, vision, values in the very first call. I want to know what that is, what that looks like, and then how do we kind of build community around that and make it feel very similar to what you're already marketing out into the world.
So it's really mostly about like thinking this is a long game. It's not like a short game. This isn't going to be something that is like a 6-month endeavor and then you could stop doing it. Like it's going to just get more. You're probably gonna have to invest in it for more into it the longer it's around. So it's really about what does that long game look like, and
Mhm.
planning for year 1, year 2, and year 3 and beyond. So and I love that you really need the resources. Don't kid yourself that this is going to be like some part-time job for some intern. Like this is like dedication, and if you're not going to build it from that, then don't start. So that's really interesting. So I'm just curious, like who do you think is doing community right these days? Like what's your opinion on like strong community
Mm.
revenue scene?
In the revenue scene.
Or not, even if it's not on the revenue scene, I'm just be curious,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
what's you?
Yeah, some of the communities that I've seen. So Sixth Sense has a beautiful community,
Yeah.
and they run theirs on a platform, and it's lovely, and it's run so incredibly well by Heather Faye. Um, if you're in marketing operations, they have the MoPros
Love it.
community.
Like Rizzo, yeah.
Yeah, Mike Rizzo, and then the partnership leaders, Asher, Matthew,
Mhm.
and Chris. Like I think they're doing a fabulous job, and of course Pavilion's doing a great job too. But in those other kind of smaller communities, I like the way they are investing and thinking about their community members and the human needs behind just the business and professional needs.
What do you think made Sixth Sense's community like good?
I think they have a very large team. I mean, it's dedicated. It is a dedicated resource. The site is beautiful. Heather is so, well respected and has so much experience in communities. So bringing all of that into there, yeah, I think it's a combination. I think it's a real dedication. It's not it's not like, oh, we put this up. This was like a very well thought out plan.
There you have it. So if you're building community, you really need to think through what you're doing. You have to make sure you have the dedicated resources, have the long game, not the short game in mind. How are you going to take this into year 2, year 3? Invest potentially in some tech and tools, but really it's about being where your audience is. So understanding your ICP and what's your metrics? Like, what are you going to measure your success? How does success look like? Early stages, it's engagement. Later stages, it could be something else down funnel, like what is the conversion, the conversion to close, how much do they spend? So I love that. There's so much. That was just me riffing off what I'm taking away from this call. Anything else that you want the audience to remember?
I think, we're talking mostly about the bigger community, growth, but I think if you're not ready to start a community, or maybe you're an individual contributor, there's so much value of participating in communities and building your brand and understanding what your potential community members want. And yeah, so it's just like, don't think you have to do it all right now. I mean, if you're in the early stages, go join a community. If you're a marketer, go join another community, see what they're talking about. It's the best listening post ever. If you want to hear voice of the customer, go hang out in a community. You're going to hear their voices.
It's where you talk about dark social. It's kind of where all the conversations about your career happen. Like if you're not understanding, if you're in a new role, you don't really quite understand like why this is happening and what you should be doing, what potential approaches that you can be using to fix an issue. Like having community, you can literally just call a few people, not call, but like DM, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
DM a few people and just have that like group of people that you can reach out to. Or if you're in a negotiating stage of your offer letter, like you can have somebody to help you there. Interviewing skills, shadowing, I've used community for. I've used community for just getting actual like metrics, like process, like how do you measure this internally? How do you forecast this? Like there's just so much I've used community for throughout the years. And with Pavilion education as well. Like I've done CMO school, I'm doing CRO school right now. I've done Rising Executives first cohort. I look at me, it's like, oh my gosh.
Well, here's a tip for you. You could go into Pavilion Slack right now and in the search bar, just type in Proposify, and it's going to show you every time Proposify was ever mentioned in the community.
And you can do that in any community. So if you're working somewhere, you want to know what people are saying. It's a fantastic way of bridging that. So I'm a big proponent of community, just using it as a professional, but also building it as a brand. Thank you so much, Leslie, for joining us today. Where can people find you if they want more information on how they can build community or use community to help scale their own career or build it within their own organization?
Yeah, I'd say, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. I'm Leslie-Greenwood. And then my website is thechiefelvangelist.com. So if you want to get a little bit more idea of what I'm doing and, how I'm talking about it, that would be there. But I'm happy to chat with everybody on LinkedIn. Spend too much time there.
Thank you so much. Enjoy B2B Max. Looks like everyone's enjoying it from my LinkedIn feed. I'm seeing a lot of posts from there. Thanks for joining us on and letting us know everything CGL. If you want to, a community that growth, CLG. I don't know why I keep saying CGL. It's okay though. CLG. Okay. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. If you have any other questions for Leslie, you can reach her on LinkedIn. You heard her. She's always available there. Thanks again, Leslie, for joining us. It was so awesome to meet you. So just to let you know, I'm taking a 1-week break. So I'm taking 1 week off. I'm going on vacation. I'm really excited about it. But CSL returns on Wednesday, March 15th, and it's going to be an amazing one because it'll be Proposify's State of Proposal Day. So we're launching our new State of Proposals. We're going to be talking about everything proposals, templates, how to write a good proposal. We're going to be looking at proposal templates and seeing what's a good proposal versus a bad proposal. We're also going to be talking about how to use the data to sell better. all happening when we return March 14th. And we are also going to be looking at the stats from 1.2 million people. So it's awesome. So see you next time. Thanks everyone for joining us.